Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the Lex Talk Startup organized by Lawyer. Today we have Advocate Shashwat Jindal with us who will guide us on how to establish a startup in Canada. Mr. Jindal specializes in corporate law, intellectual property right matters, data privacy and protection, and maritime laws. He is the director of Jindal Solicitors and Associates. He is particularly renowned for his efforts to provide quality legal services at national and international levels, providing excellent legal advisories, customized solutions. His achievements in providing excellent customized legal solutions are commendable. Shashwat mitigates and helps his diverse clients flourish in any dynamic business environment. He believes himself to be on a mission to adopt a progressive approach towards the practice of law by integrating both conventional practice areas and emerging sectors, setting a benchmark in legal fraternity. We welcome you to the webinar, sir.
Thank you for your kind introduction, Simran. It's really a great honor to be invited and be a part of Lawyer, and I really hope I can do justice to this topic because the Canadian hemisphere is an upcoming place for startups, and even though I may do as many webinars or I may speak as much as I can, but the amount of things which are happening over there, they just can't be encompassed. But I'll just make a try, small try.
Sure, sir.
Should I start my presentation or
Yes, sir, of course.
can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
So I will be talking of the journey of a Canadian startup. My talk will be from the position of us when it is at a seed stage or when the startup has just started to the time when it is at a level where it can be used full-fledgedly for business. The first thing which you do as a startup is that you get a good business idea for any business, any business. The first thing is that you get an idea. It can be inspired from any place. It can be inspired from something which you see every day in your life. It can be inspired by something which is a market requirement. Like there is something in the market which is not there, and you decide, okay, yeah, okay, this is not being provided. So I'll create the service. I'll start selling these goods. So that is how you get a business idea, and you really need to have an entrepreneurial mind and a really creative mind and really innovative mind to get a good business idea. And the first stage of getting a good business idea itself is a very commendable thing as per what I think. So once you've gotten a good business idea, what is the first thing you think? You think, okay, yeah, I've gotten this business idea, and now I you will see you start imagining, okay, that I'll do it like this, I'll be fulfilling people's needs this way. And you start brainstorming business ideas and start checking the viability, because if the business idea is not viable, no matter how good it is, it will not really be profitable and it won't run. And as we see time and time again, that sometimes people get business ideas which are way ahead of their time, something which may have been not unacceptable in maybe the 1900s, maybe something which is a very commonly sold business thing today. And so it is very important to check whether your business idea, even though it may be ahead of its time and it may be really innovative, but it is not necessary that it will sell today. And as a businessman, you need to create something which sells today. And whilst doing your research and innovating for the future, obviously, because that is how we will progress. The second most important thing is that you check your target market. You should know whom you're going to sell your product. If, for example, if I am making, for example, a stealth phone or mobile phone, you have to see that who will be your target audience. Will it be businessmen? Will it be regular people? Like, will it be students? Will it be So, and for example, even for laptops, you could have a gaming laptop, you could have a programmer's laptop, you could have so many things. So, you should know that who your target audience is and whether your products will be bought by that audience or not. Will it fulfill their needs or not? Because that is why we start a business. You fulfill people's need, you bridge a market gap. Then the third part is that you will research on, like for example, just like I talked about viability, but now this is not just about checking the viability. You will do a thorough and deep research in this part. You will see that what are the costs associated with the business and how much profits you will actually make. And sometimes it may take you a couple of years before you reach a break even point. You may see that a number of companies throughout the world, number of multi-billion dollar companies throughout the world are still not profitable till now. And you'll have to see that how much it will cost you and whether you will be able to maintain it or not. Then the most important part, this is the most important part, and this is something as a lawyer I will recommend that you really put your mind to, is that you check the legality of the business idea and you ensure that you have the associated permits and licenses. At this stage, though, you will not be applying, you will, like, you will just check first. You have to check because at this stage you are at the research stage. You will want to check, okay, what all are there. So if for example and you will not only have to check federal, when you are starting a business in Canada, you don't only check the federal licenses or whatever permits you require. You'll also check the provincial permits and business and whatever is required as well. And for example, and you'll also have to check the various laws. For example, for data privacy laws, provinces such as Alberta and British Columbia, they have separate data privacy laws. So you'll have to also ensure that you're in compliance with federal laws where you have to be in compliance with federal laws. But if there is a certain provincial law where you need to comply with that as well, then you'll have to look into that. So at this point, it is really important to do a thorough research, and I will recommend that you get an expert, a legal expert who can help you out with this. And then, just in continuation to the previous points which I have given you, that you will check the legal compliances and laws applicable to your business and whether you can fulfill them. And in this stage, you will also check the cost of the legal compliances. You may have to do a lot of registrations, which will incur you a lot of costs. So that also you will have to add into your cost benefit, cost profit ratio to ensure that whether you can bear those costs or not. And at this stage, and what is my suggestion is that you apply for permits at an earlier stage itself, because number one, getting a permit, it takes time. And number two, what if your permits gets rejected? You may think that okay, you have a good business idea and everything, but maybe you're not able to meet the statutory compliances, maybe you're not able to fulfill the requirements. Then what? You will have set up a business but you won't be able to do business. So this is something which I believe should be done at the initial stage itself. As soon as you have a business idea and you know it's viable and you know you want to do it, just apply for the permits, research, apply. Then the next stage of setting up your startup will be choosing a name. The name, choosing a name of a brand or the choosing a name of a company or choosing the name of a startup or choosing the name of any business entity is a very crucial part in my thought process. For example, when you hear the name Nike, what do you think? What is the first thing that comes to you? Sports shoes, sporting clothes. When you think of Rolls Royce, what comes to your mind? A luxury car. When you think of Shopify, what comes to your mind? A marketplace where you can create a marketplace actually. And when you think of Facebook, what is it? What comes to your mind? A social media website. Your name, I believe, should not only be eye catching, it should be very, very eye catching. It should also embody the ethos of your business. The ethos will be the principles of your business. What product you're selling, it should coincide with them. It should create that impact which you want to create. Maybe you're a business which is selling extremely luxury products which are meant for a certain really, really ultra rich class of people. For such a product, what you will have to keep a name which will appeal to them. They should make be made to feel that, okay, yeah, this product has a very exclusive name, it is something very exclusive. You'll also have to take a look at but maybe it is something which you are selling to maybe the general masses, which is a product which will be sold to everyone, like every single person. Maybe it's a detergent of soap, and for that we'll have to keep a name which people can relate to. And it's not very. And one of the major things which I've seen is that people often keep names which are difficult to pronounce. And though it may seem good that okay, it's a complex this thing, but it is not something which catches on your tongue. You have to ensure that your name is something which just catches on your tongue. And Then the second thing is that what I would recommend is that you ensure that you can get a domain name for the product you want to sell. Actually, this once happened with one of my clients when they wanted to start a barber shop by the name of Cool Cuts. They got the brand name registered, everything. They even got a trademark done. They got everything done. They were ready to sell. So when they went to register the domain name for that brand, the domain name was not available, and it caused a lot of problems because in today's time you are recognized by the it is very important to have a website and have an online presence for your business, because that is one of the best ways of outreach in today's era and period. And when you are not on the internet, then it will be a very, very big backlog actually for your business. And so what the name was available in that case was Funky Cuts. And so instead of going with Cool Cuts, they then had to take a separate, they took a Funky Cuts domain, and they had to go through the entire process again, because their clientele was mainly supposed to come from online, because they were selling shampoo and such products on an online store like hair products. And well, it was quite a major cost on them. And then the next thing which I will also recommend, though I'm not a marketing whiz, I'm a lawyer, but this is in my experience while working with a lot of startups. And I feel that if it's from the initial stage itself, you should hire or get in association with a good marketing guy. And because it is very important that what because in today's time, especially with the technology of search engine optimization, where you ensure that the whatever names you keep for your brand, they are such that they're unique and they are searched often. There are various services such as Google AdWords, where you can check the whether your product is SEO compatible, and will it when you actually take the product in online, will people actually search about it? Will people actually want to look for it? Maybe it is a name which people don't even look for. How will you get online customers then? It will also be difficult to market, especially with targeted audience advertisements. It will be very difficult for you to actually market your product. So it is really important that your name, your logos, your slogans are such which are which can be easily optimized for search engines, and whenever someone searches your name, it just pops up. And then afterwards, once you're sure about the name and you've done your SEO and you just know, okay, okay, this is the name I want, then the thing I will recommend, though sometimes people don't do it immediately, but the thing I recommend is get a training. Get a logo made, get a trademark done. Because a number of times what happens is that if you don't get a trademark done, your someone else may get it done before you. And right now, you're not a company which is selling, you're not in commerce, you're not doing any business. And what if you have just developed, you've created this trademark, and by the time, like maybe 2 months or 3 months down the lane, when you actually start doing business, by then someone has already registered a similar trademark, because of which your trademark application gets rejected. So I will suggest that you go to the CIPO, which is the Canadian Intellectual Property Office, do a thorough research, like a really thorough research, and check whether this trademark is already being used or not. Yeah, this is also something which you'll have to check. You'll have to do a very thorough research and then just apply for the trademark. When you have a good business idea, uh, you will also develop products. You will also have to do a lot of R&D. You'll have to develop good products. Maybe it is a recipe which you have, for example, for like Coca-Cola or KFC, or KFC's five ingredients recipe. I mean, to talk about. Maybe you have a different sort of product, or you have something which is very unique which you want to sell. Maybe you've developed a technology which you want to sell. I will suggest that at the earliest possible time you get a patent done, because see, you may think that you are the brightest mind there is, but that may not necessarily be true. You may be having a brainstorming a very brilliant idea. We never know that someone else might also be doing it somewhere else. And whoever has obtained the right first, whoever has registered their right first, will have a greater, more powerful right to the product. And it will also help, because when you will be telling people, obviously you'll want to market it. And at that stage, it shouldn't be that someone copies your idea or someone develops a similar product. So I would suggest that you get a patent registered at the earliest as well. You'll have to remember that the process of trademark registration and patent registration can take some time, though you will get provisional trademarks and provisional patents, but it is not. But it can always be disputed, and someone can file a case against it. Till the time you don't have the permanent thing in your hand, till that time you're not completely, you cannot be completely assured. So I will suggest that you do it at the earliest stage, and you can use it to protect trade secrets. Just like I mentioned before with Coca-Cola and KFC, you can get a utility patent, which basically will protect the utility of your product. So, for example, you have a particular medicine will where you have discovered that by mixing certain number of salts, you can cure a sore throat. So based on that utility, that okay, I mix these salts and it is used for sore throat, you get it patented. So no one else can then mix those five salts and sell it, because you already have a patent for sore throat specifically. And then there are industrial design patents. For example, any jewelry design, you have developed a very unique design which you know that people will love. Then you get an industrial design patent. You have maybe developed a certain tool. Maybe you've developed a very different sort of spanner or a very different sort of screwdriver, whose design is very unique. So it is great to get it patented before other people's copy it. After this, let me move on to the next topic, which is finances. Finances and sources of funding of a startup are something which I believe should be looked at the earliest stage itself. And one of the major reasons I feel this is that often that, see, what runs a business, the bread and butter of a business is money. Why do you do business? For money. And there is a saying that the more money, like you make money from money, that's why the rich get richer. So you will need money to start your business. I mean, okay, I'm sorry, it was a uh, very poor example, but okay, I was just trying to make a joke. Well, you'll have to look at finances from the initial level itself. And And though for and yes, and though for most people, when they start a business, the initial sources of funding are their personal funds, or they take out a loan. But when you're an entrepreneur, I believe that an entrepreneur is someone who doesn't just stop at at the boundary. He pushes the boundary, and then you look for alternative sources of funding. And while you look at funding, you will also check the viability of your business. And so you can also look for alternative sources of funding, such as venture capital funding, government grants, angel investors, crowdfunding, etc. And you should remember that there are various grant programs and startup, and you can also take help from startup incubators as well. And there are a number of government the Canadian government has a number of grant programs, and even some private organizations as well have a lot of grant programs where you can get a good amount of funding. And though most of them are more grants towards research for particular fields, but especially when you're developing your product and you're market testing them and you're testing the viability of the product, it is a very good idea, I believe, to get government grants and private grants, and they can really be helpful as compared to a loan where you take a burden on yourself. And one of the most popular grant programs is the SD Tech Fund and the Industrial Research Assistant Program, or the IRAP. The IRAP provides, I think, funding around 50 grand to around 500 grand CAD, and it is available across Canada. Yeah, you'll have to also see that certain grant programs will only provide you money to do research and to develop a product in a particular province. And you'll have to ensure that you are in compliance with them, because if you are not complying with whatever requirements they have, they will just take away the grant money even after granting it to you. Yeah, they can do it. They can legally sue you for it. And you and one of the most and you can also develop take grants from areas, especially provinces. When you are going for government grants, one of the best ideas recommended is look for provinces which are very less populated, such as Yukon or Saskatchewan, which are underdeveloped. So they most of these provinces have a lot of government grant programs where you can apply and you can get good amount of funding for your startup. And then another very good idea, which I recommend to a lot of people, for especially those people who want to get a startup visa, is apply to a startup incubator. Incubators will not only provide help you connect with the investors and help you get good funding, they will also provide you other support as well. There are a lot of seed stage incubators, seed stages when you are planting the seed for your business. So at that stage only, they will help get you whatever support is required. It is not only about the financial support, it is also about help you with market research. It will also help you with developing your product and checking whether the product will actually be sold and how you should market it. They will connect you with some amazing people who have so much experience with startups, amazing business people, amazing lawyers, amazing techies, because most startups these days, they are catered towards tech products. They will just connect you with such amazing people, and it will actually broaden your horizon. And and a lot of times, I've talked to a number of entrepreneurs who tell me that once they entered into an incubator, they got such amazing ideas for the startups that they grew like anything. And gaining an entry into a startup incubator program will also be beneficial for you when you want to get a startup visa. And though you will have to ensure that whatever incubator you're entering, or uh, or getting associated with, it is government approved, because only then will they be recognized by the Canadian government. And example, some names are Innova Corp, Invest Ottawa. Invest Ottawa is an Ottawa based incubator, or Brilliant Catalyst, where you will be, which are actually government approved. So if your application, though the process is very very rigorous and it's not easy to get in, but if you are able to get in, if you have an amazing idea, they definitely will help you. And if you are a foreign based person, maybe you are in Japan and you thought about an amazing idea, or in India you thought of an amazing idea which might sell well in Canada, you can always apply to an incubator, and you will get a startup visa just on the basis of an entry into an incubator. uh, Unlike VC funding or angel investing funding, you don't need any, just to clarify, you don't need any minimum investment for a startup incubator. No, no, even if you don't raise even a single penny through a startup incubator, but your application just got selected, you will get a startup visa. So that is one of the most amazing things about getting into a startup incubator. And they should be just ensure that they're approved by the Canadian government. The agency which caters to this is the NAC, or the National Angel Capital Organization, and they are government recognized. And this is what ensures that whatever sources of funding are there, they are proper. And then the other sources of funding are, well, the most popular ones are angel investing and VC funding. So, in an angel investor, a number of people who have resources at their disposal, they come together and form an organization. It can also be an individual person who's ready to invest in your business. So basically, when at a C stage of a startup, you are someone who really requires money, you have a great idea, but you don't have the money. So this person comes as an angel of God. That's why I think they got the name, and will ensure that you have whatever money you require. And they can be organizations in the form of on a group of investors, or they can be individual angel investors as well. If you are able to raise around 75,000 CAD, you will be also eligible under the startup visa program if you are able to. But you'll have to ensure that they are a part of the NACO, which is the National Angel Capital Organization, and they're recognized by it. And some angel funding organizations which are recognized are Canadian International Angel Investors and the Golden Triangle Angel Network. So if you are not able to get into an incubator, these are also organizations whom you can approach. You can check the Canadian government website, and you'll get to know more names of angel funding, people from whom you can get angel funding. And then for the other way is venture capital or VC funding. Unlike an angel investor organization, a VC funding is a proper business entity. It can be a corp. Most of them are corporates, and they, even a lot of them have their own board of directors as well. And some of the more popular ones are Cornerstone Capital Partners, Seven Gate Ventures, BCF Ventures, BDC Capital Ventures, and like all these. If you want to enter the startup visa program, if you and you are able to get around 200,000 CAD, you will get a startup visa. And though just like all others, you'll have to ensure that they're recognized by the Canadian government. Another source of funding, though it is not very popular for startups, because startups, people are a little skeptical to invest. But if you already have a very solid brand name, and people know you, and you know that people believe in you, and you are at such a level, and you can also raise money through an IPO for your startup. And though for that, you'll have to comply with a lot of a lot of legal compliances and filings and documentations and everything. But if you have that those resources and the patience and that brand image in the public, that you are able to convince the public to invest in your business, you can also go for funding through establishing a public limited corporation and getting an IPO, which is an initial public offering to the people and who will buy shares in your company and become a part of your company. And then once you are able to do it, your company will also be listed on the Canadian Stock Exchange. Then the next stage, once you know that, okay, how you're going to raise your funding and everything, then you decide on what business entity. Like for example, I just talked previously that if you raise really large funds, you can go for an IPO. So at that stage, then the next stage when you will decide your business entity, you will know that, okay, yeah, I want to have a corporate, a public limited company, and it can be a business entity, can be a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a cooperative LLC, a public company, or even an extra provincial corporation. And I believe that the type of entity should be decided at the seed stage itself, so that all related formalities are fulfilled from the beginning itself. You'll have to remember that the more complex the organization, the greater the legal compliances and formalities involved will be. For example, for a sole proprietorship, the filings on the compliances will be way lesser than maybe a public limited company, where you will be a sole proprietorship is only answerable to the government, but a public limited company is answerable to the public, because if there is any loss occurring in the public limited company, the it will lead to losses to a number of shareholders, and as a result the compliances have to be more stringent, and because of the reason that they have a lot of more resources, like way more resources than a sole proprietor will. They can do a lot of malpractices as well. They can do a lot of things. So the government has to ensure that they are reined in and in line. And you'll have to decide the business entity at the start of a stage itself, so that and at an early stage itself, so that whatever requirements are there, they're properly actualized, and you can start on associated formalities. And you will have to see that you can see that what are the various types. You'll have to do a lot of research. If I go There's so many types of entities that if I go on each entity, it is a separate webinar on itself, and yeah, I will do a webinar on that also. And the first thing, but the first and the most common sort of business entity is the sole proprietorship, in which there is one person who is responsible for all decisions. He's also responsible to bear any profits or loss which occurred there. Though the person may have his employees, but they are under the principal servant relationship, and that person is the one who will bear the brunt of anything that goes wrong. And the only benefit, one of the major benefits of this is that you can just start it at without a lot of effort, and you don't need to do a lot of compliances, or you don't need to register a lot of things. You can just get a business idea, buy a product. Like you can even do all transactions through your own personal bank account, and you can even start the business. Like you don't need any permissions, or you don't, unless there are any unless there's a requirement of any particular license or as or anything. But you don't have to generally take any permission, and you can just start the business. And and it can even be started in your own name. A partnership is more of a relationship between multiple owners. It can be between individuals, corporations, trusts, or even between partnerships. They in turn will share our profits and losses. This can be a general partnership, and so in the general partnership, it's quite simple and straightforward. You don't even need to register any partnership deed, and you can just as a group of people you can just start a business as simple as a sole proprietor. And though it is recommended that you register the partnership deed and get it formally done, when you register it, you'll have to ensure that you are in compliance with whatever provincial laws are there, because your registration will be done with the provincial government, and you'll have to be in compliance with them. And then there is another type of partnership form, which is an LLP or a limited liability partnership. And there and usually and in these such partnerships, your liability is limited to the amount of capital you've invested. Like it's and it protects your interests more in case there's a loss. And it is usually recommended that you register these in Ontario and BC, because their provincial laws are quite lax with relate to partnership as compared to other provinces. You can and then the most common, not common actually, the most popular, or the most if you want to create a separate legal entity, you can just form a corporation. And this will be more expensive as compared to other entities. But if it's a public corporation, you can raise more number of funds. And even if it's a private corporation, you can raise funding through a private placement. And so plus it helps protect your business interests. And because it is a separate legal entity, if there is any loss, so it will be borne in the name of the business, and it will not affect your own personal funds. And I will also suggest that while say, so at this stage, it is very important that you see what all compliances are there, what all tax compliances are there, what all tax structures are there. And you should ensure that you will be able to meet them or not, because if you don't, the penalties are so huge, so huge, that it will become very difficult for you to recuperate them. And we'll talk about tax structures for another webinar, though, because that itself is a very vast topic in itself. Another thing which I recommend that all entrepreneurs should ensure that they have very airtight and strong contracts in place. This should be done, though a lot of people may say that no, contracts are something which can be formed later on as well. You start the business, then you form contracts, but no, I feel that yeah, you can do it with a lot of contracts, but at least some contracts should be there from the initial stage itself, because contracts are what will help you whenever there's a dispute. When things are going great, things will go great, but when there's a dispute, it's your contracts that will help you, and it's your contract that will keep people in line. I've seen so many people start a startup, and even though they have brilliant ideas, they're brilliant people, and with the and very hardworking, very determined people. But because of small squabbles relating to the responsibility of the person and blaming each other, they end up not getting into business. They just end up fighting and get separated. And because of that, our world has lost a number of brilliant companies who would have really changed our lives. And so I feel that the first and most important contract which you should have as a startup is to ensure that you have a very airtight co-founders agreement, especially when there are multiple persons involved, because it will help deciding the duties and responsibilities of every person. And in case there is any dispute and any issue, and the main thing is that every person should know their role in the company. So if you're five people, if someone is handling sales, someone is handling marketing, someone is handling HR, someone is handling the day-to-day business structure management, so every person should be knowing that what is their role, and they should not overlap on each other. They should know, okay, that this is my boundary. And so that every person can work on their own, and it does not really lead to any friction. And that, okay, yeah, you were supposed to do this, you were supposed to do this. No, that won't happen then, because everything is already being put forward in a contract. And And then you'll have to look for further contracts. For example, if you have a partnership company, or sorry, you're a partnership, you're basically a partnership entity. You will have to ensure that agreement is drafted, and some provinces may have statutory requirements that you need require a partnership agreement in order to be registered. So you'll have to check the laws of each province, and you'll have to form the partnership agreement accordingly. And then if you have a corporation, you have a number of agreements which you'll have to create before you can actually register your corporation. For example, your articles of association, your bylaws, your memorandum of associations, and various other documents which you will need in order to register your business. So you'll have to ensure that all of them are prepared, and all of them are made in a very, they should not be made just for the sake of it. You should get a good expert, ensure that every right is protected, and in case there is a dispute later on, everything is protected. So it's really important, really important. And though employee agreements, though you are at a startup stage, you may not be having hiring employees, or but I will suggest that you have some sort of a skeletal employment agreement at the earliest stage itself, so that when you will actually be hiring people, you'll know whom to hire and what sort of people to hire, and what things you will be putting forward before them. And anti-competition agreements, confidential agreements, though they may be drafted at a later stage as well, but they're not only helpful for employees but also for other people who are associated with your business, including your co-founders as well. Like, it's important that every one of them have an anti-competition confidentiality agreement in place, so that in case there is ever a falling out, the other person just doesn't go forward and open up another company and just eat up your business. And so these also should be drafted at an earlier stage itself. And once it is all done, and then the last thing which you will need to do is that you register your whatever registrations you require. For example, if you are a partnership, you'll register with the province. If you're a corporation, you will register wherever, whatever you are required, wherever you're required to do with your provincial registrar. And you will have to ensure that you are in compliance with everything, and you register your entity. And you'll also have to open up a bank account, because that is where you will take payments. Even as a sole proprietorship, you can open up a bank account in the name of your company, because it is one thing taking payments in the name of your own name, but it is always better to show yourself as an organization, because that way you are able to attract better clients. And so yes, so that also is something which you can do. And you need to open up a bank account, and for that also you'll have to check whatever requirements are there, because each bank are governed by various banking laws, and you'll have to ensure that they are in compliance with. We'll do a webinar on that as well. And it is also important, because if you have believe that your startup will gain a revenue of over 30,000 CAD in a year, it is compulsory, it is statutorily compulsory that you obtain a GST, HST number, and you're filing GST, whatever taxes are there, and you're filing them, and they're in place. Once everything is done, you are registered, you are now open for business. So this is the stage when you can take a sigh of relief, though it is going to be a very difficult road to climb, scaling up your business and doing everything. But you have achieved something at this stage. You have achieved something very big. You have incorporated a startup. You had an amazing idea and you created something beautiful. And now is the time that you share it with the world. You start a great marketing campaign. You start working on sales and start selling your product. And you should know who your target audience is. Now is the time when you actually see the practical aspects of your result, whether actually it will come true or not, and then you just work hard on it. So this is where I will end my lecture, and yeah, I hope you learned something from it.
Thank you so much for Thank you so much, Mr. Jindal, for guiding us on how we can establish a startup in Canada. It indeed was a very detailed explanation, and I hope audience today had some really valuable takeaways from this session. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you so much, Simran. Thank you for taking out your time for this session, and thank you for having me here. And I'm really, really thankful for your kind words. Thank you so much.